Chills. I'm ready to paint my face red, white, and blue and start the USA chant right now. Like, if that doesn't get you pumped up, I got nothing for you. If you haven't seen that, that's a clip from the end of the movie Miracle, and if you haven't seen it, I just ruined it for you, so I apologize for that. But if you know your world history, that is a real life event. It's based off the hockey game between the United States and the Soviet Union in the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, New York. And if you know your world history, this was at the height of the Cold War. There was no love lost between the US and the Soviets. I grew up watching movies about how we were the good guys and the Russians were the bad guys. I mean, as a kid, I reenacted Red Dawn in my backyard all the time. I mean, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Great movie that illustrates this US versus Russia. Our boy Rocky, wearing the stars and stripes, his boxing shorts. Hey, while there's a Russian off training in with the latest technology in a gym getting all roided up, not our boy Rocky. He's out running through the snow up to his thighs, doing pull-ups in a horse barn to train because that's what we do as Americans, right? Personal favorite. Somebody's gonna clap at that. I knew it. My personal favorite, Maverick sweeping in to save Iceman from the Russian MiG-28s. Hey, you can be my wingman anytime. I can't finish that line because we're in church. 1980s cinema, love it. It's like, I'm still disappointed that those are just movies. But The Miracle on Ice, that was real. The US versus the Soviet Union in the Olympics. And this was far more than a hockey game. I mean, national pride attached to it, to say the least. On top of that, it had become highly politicized. I mean, all of the global tension between the US and the Soviets was gonna get played out for 60 minutes on a hockey rink. And it wasn't a fair fight. The Russians had a dynasty. They had been dominating the world of hockey for close to 20 years. They'd won 4 straight gold medals. It was a foregone conclusion they were gonna win their 5th straight gold medal in 1980. The US, they weren't even considered as a hopeful to make the medal round. Not even a chance, because there was a bunch of college kids playing together from all over the country. They'd never played together. A lot of them were from rival schools, so there was a chemistry issue. And now they're gonna be playing against grown men who had been playing together for decades. They'd been dominating for years. Not to mention, they played an exhibition game right before the Olympics, and the Soviets slaughtered us, something like 10-3. But once they got to the Olympics, somehow the US played well enough and they made it to the medal round. And sure enough, they played the Soviets. Game is back and forth, and as time is running out, man, the United States finds themselves in the winning spot, and they beat the Soviet Union. You heard Al Michaels' famous call that all of us know as time runs out. Do you believe in miracles? Okay, that was pathetic. I lost all of my chills. I know the 11 o'clock will do a better job than that. But I mean, this was a miracle that they actually won, hence the name. This is arguably the greatest upset in sports history. And going into the Olympics, if you would have asked anybody, hey, what's got a better probability of happening? The US beating the Soviets or pigs flying? Without a doubt, everyone would have said, oh, pigs flying. No chance does the United States have in the medal round versus the Soviets. Nobody believed it could happen until it actually did. Nobody believed anything on that scale until they actually saw it with their own eyes. John chapter 11, there's a really similar story. It has nothing to do with hockey, but nobody would have believed what happened in John 11 until they actually saw it with their own eyes. So if you got a Bible, go ahead and open to John 11. That's in the New Testament. It's in the back third of your Bible. And I think this is my opinion, next to the miracle we're gonna see on Easter, I think this is Jesus' most impressive. There is so much in John chapter 11. We could do an entire series just on this chapter, so I kind of feel like I'm gonna do it a really big disservice because we're gonna skim the surface of it. So here's what I wanna do. I wanna read through a big chunk of the chapter all at once, so stick with me, and then we'll circle back to it, all right? Look at verse 1. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord, that's Jesus, perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. Jump to verse 11. After he had said this, he went to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up. His disciples replied, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better. Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I'm glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Verse 17. On his arrival, Jesus found Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know now you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though he die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Verse 32. When Martha reached and Mary reached the place where Jesus had saw him, she fell on his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who had come out also along with her weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. And Jesus wept. Verse 38. Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there for 4 days. Then Jesus said, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So they took the stone away. Then Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. When he said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out with his hands and his feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. Jesus just told a guy he wasn't allowed to be dead anymore. I mean, if you say resurrection or pigs flying, man, I'm going to go with pigs flying personally. Like, don't let this get lost on us, though. Put yourself there. Imagine you're there and you see this happen. Like, you're following Jesus out to this cemetery, and you're thinking, like, hey, what's he going to do? Oh, is he going to go out there and cry? Because he and Lazarus were boys. They were pretty tight. Like, he probably should mourn. Yeah, he's probably going to cry. Wait, what do you mean, roll the stone away, Jesus? That's going to smell really bad, dude. Like, I don't know if you want to do that. And Jesus calls out, hey, Lazarus, come out. And now you're thinking, okay, he's lost it. Like, the poor guy is in denial. Obviously, his emotions have got the better of him. Can somebody, he's calling out to a dead man, somebody get him a drink and let's take him home. This is not good. This is going to get really, really awkward. But then something starts to happen. Like, you're looking into this tomb. You can't see inside of it because it's dark and there's shadows, but you're looking into this tomb and you hear this wrestling around. So now you got this mix between curiosity and being slightly freaked out. You don't want anybody to know that, so you play it cool. You back up for a second, like still looking in, but trying to get somebody in front of you, so you got a buffer between you and whatever's going on in that tomb. And after a minute, like you're looking around and all of a sudden out of the shadows comes this guy wrapped in burial clothes. He looks like a mummy, and he's staggering out like he's had too much to drink. Your first thought is this is a pretty sick practical joke. Like, I appreciate the attention to detail that somebody would go this far to scare us. That's a great prank, but I think it's a little tasteless. But as you're watching this guy in these mummy clothes stagger out at you, you realize, wait, that is Lazarus. That's the guy that's been dead for 4 days. And I know he's been dead for 4 days because I was at his house on the day he died with his family. Now he's walking out of the grave unassisted because Jesus told him to. Jesus just raised his friend from the dead. Like what your eyes are seeing, your brain cannot compute. Like you just can't make sense of what you're seeing. There's no words to describe it. Like we've literally run out of superlatives. But let's back up for just a second. If Jesus has the power to raise somebody from the dead, I don't care how he did it. I want to know why. And I want to know why he did it the way he did it. I don't know if this stuck out to you, but this hit me reading the story. The first thing was his punctuality, or the lack thereof. Now, I'm not really a big pet peeve kind of guy. That's not my thing. I got a couple. One would be people who drive in the left-hand lane slower than the speed limit or the pace of traffic and won't get over even if there's a line of cars behind them. If that's you, stop it, okay? I'm just kidding. But seriously, move over. The other pet peeve I've got is punctuality. I hate being late. I don't care if you're late. That doesn't bother me at all. That's fine. Me, myself, I do not want to be late at all. It drives me nuts. I kid you not. I had this conversation the other day with my boys. They're 9 and 4. And I said, all right, guys, repeat after me. 5 minutes early is on time. On time is late. Okay, good. Say it again. And Kelly's just rolling her eyes at me, rightfully so. But I'm sticking to the punctuality theme because it matters. But apparently it doesn't matter to Jesus. Like he gets word that his good friend Lazarus is sick. He loved Lazarus. It says that he loved Lazarus' family. So you'd think that when you find out your friend is really sick, Jesus would make a beeline towards him, right? Especially knowing that Jesus can heal Lazarus. We've already seen throughout this series that Jesus can heal anyone of anything just by saying the word. So you definitely take off whenever you hear your friend is sick. Like I'm imagining Jesus gets the group text, whoa, hey, guys, we got to go. Lazarus is not doing well. And he just takes off because that's what you would do for a friend, especially one who is critically sick. And we have no idea what Lazarus was sick with, but we know that every second mattered. So why would Jesus wait for 2 days? Why did he wait 2 days before he goes to his friend? I mean, because he loved him? Says that he loves him. Doesn't sound like a very loving thing to do. Your friend's sick, I can do something about it. All right, cool, I'll wait 2 more days. That doesn't sound very loving. He loved Mary and Martha. If you love somebody, you wouldn't let them go through the mourning process of their brother dying prematurely, would you? What's up with 2 days? So I think the natural question then is there a purpose to Jesus' punctuality? Is there purpose behind it? Is there meaning? 1 Peter 1, 6 and 7 says this. There's a wonderful joy ahead. Even though you have to endure many trials for a little while, these trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. So when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. So the answer is yes. Like there is a purpose to this punctuality. And maybe the purpose is tough times. Maybe the purpose is trials. Nobody wants to hear that. I don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. The disciples didn't want to hear that. But Jesus says right here flat out in all of this mess, he says, here's the purpose. Here's why I'm doing this. He said, hey, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad. I'm glad. I'm glad that I wasn't there for your sake. What do you mean, Jesus? I'm glad I wasn't there for your sake, so now you have a chance to believe. Now that he's dead, now the timing's right, now let's go. Remember, whenever you read the miracle stories of Jesus, not to miss the point, the miracle always points to a message. Jesus says right here, flat out, here's what the purpose is. Here's the message, so that you would believe. So that you would believe. And he's not saying that just to the disciples, he's saying that to us right now. If Jesus goes and intervenes and takes care of Lazarus right away, he might be robbing the disciples a chance to believe. He might be robbing them a chance to be developed as his disciples. He might be robbing them a chance to be refined so that they look like gold, like what Peter says. It's the same thing for us. If Jesus would just intervene right now in 2019 with whatever we got going on, man, he might be robbing us of something. You know, if Jesus went and healed Lazarus, that'd be cool. That'd be great. But what would have had a bigger impact on the disciples? Healing or resurrection? I mean, they're both great. What's going to have a bigger impact on you? Healing or resurrection? Now, whenever we're going through it, any kind of trial, any kind of tough time, a John chapter 11 type moment, it can be really easy to miss any kind of purpose that might be behind the pain. Because I can't focus on anything than whatever's right in front of me. I can only see the immediate. We can miss what might be going on. Maybe the delay with Jesus is actually meant for our development. Here's the thing. God does allow pain. He does. But he will never allow pain to be purposeless. Let me say that again because somebody needs to hear that. God does allow pain, but he will never allow pain to be purposeless. If God would have just intervened right now with whatever's going on with me, I might miss the purpose behind the pain. If God would have just intervened and Jesus would have healed Lazarus, the disciples might have missed the purpose all along behind all of that pain. They would have missed the chance to see what Jesus had in mind the whole time. Timing is everything. You know, maybe our worst possible time, like dead in the grave for 4 days, that's bad timing. Maybe our worst possible time is actually the best time for God. Our hopelessness, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you, our hopelessness might actually be God's greatest opportunity. And I know that's really easy to say in a sermon. That's really easy for some guy to stand on a stage and say that. But when the stuff really hits the fan, like when you're in the middle of it, you might want to hit me or somebody else for saying something like that because I don't want to hear that. I don't want a chance to believe. I don't want to be developed. I don't want my faith to be strengthened. I don't care about any purpose behind any pain. I just want it to go away. Jesus, I just want you to take care of this. I just want you to help me avoid this disaster that is on the horizon. Where were you, Jesus? You ever said that before? Mary and Martha said it twice. Mary throws herself on top of Jesus' feet when she finally sees him. She won't lift up her head because she doesn't want anybody to see how swollen her eyes are from crying. She doesn't even want to look at Jesus because she's mad at him. She's blaming him. Jesus, if you would have been here, my brother wouldn't be dead. He'd still be alive. Like, where were you, Jesus? You ever asked that before? Like, where were you, Jesus, when I got that diagnosis? Where were you, Jesus, when my marriage started to fall apart? Where were you, Jesus, when I had to take the fall at work for that thing that I didn't even do? Where were you, Jesus, when my best friend stabbed me in the back? Where were you, Jesus, when that person died? Where were you, Jesus? Fill in the blank wouldn't have happened if you would have been here. Now, first of all, it is okay to bring those kind of emotions to God. Completely okay. In fact, it's encouraged. And we always want to be reverent when we approach the Lord. Absolutely. But God's not afraid of raw emotion. He's not afraid of tough questions. He's not afraid of doubts. In fact, he's saying, bring it. I want that from you. If you read through the Psalms in the Old Testament, they are just littered with raw emotion and tough questions and people pleading and being even angry with God. God's like, hey, I want that. Bring it to me. So maybe the perceived silence of God, where he's waiting for 2 days or you don't feel like he's speaking up or intervening or doing anything, maybe that perceived silence is actually meant for you to speak up. He's waiting for you to do that. Maybe the delay is for you to be developed. Maybe he's trying to create dependence in you. Maybe it's meant for you to turn and run towards him instead of turn and run away from him, because that's my tendency. When stuff's going south, my tendency is not to lean into God. My tendency is to run in the opposite direction or put it on my own shoulders because I think I'm strong enough. Maybe he's just trying to get our attention. Of course, he wants the disciples to believe. Absolutely, that's the purpose. But he's also doing something else here. He's trying to get them and us to see something about him. At 2 different times it says that Jesus was deeply moved. 2 different times. It says that he wept. Well, what's Jesus crying about? What's he crying about? Is it Lazarus? I mean, if you've got any kind of church background before, or if you've ever heard somebody teach on this story, you've probably heard that, okay, look, Jesus has a friend named Lazarus. He dies, and he's really sad because his friend died. I mean, that's what I heard all growing up. Here's my question with that, though. Why would you cry about something that you know is going to happen and that you know you're going to fix? Jesus knew Lazarus was going to die. He let it happen. And he knew that he was going to resurrect Lazarus. So why would he cry about Lazarus? Here's the thing. He's not crying over Lazarus. He's not crying about Lazarus. The reason Jesus is upset here, the reason why he's deeply moved, the reason why he's weeping is because everybody else around him is weeping. All he sees is pain and sorrow and tears. When he goes to the tomb, when he goes to Lazarus' house, he just sees nothing but people hugging each other with bloodshot eyes, sniffling noses, and tears dropping off jawlines. And it breaks him. Why? It's because he wants them to know and he wants us to know. Not only is Jesus fully God and fully man, this shows Jesus' humanity, but what he's conveying right here is that, hey, I care. I care. And when you're in pain, I'm not distant and disconnected. No, I'm right in the middle of it with you. I'm present. We can know that we have a God who knows what it feels like to go through whatever it is that we're going through. A God who knows what it feels like to experience what you've experienced. A God who knows what it feels like to experience what you will experience in the future, whatever that is. Jesus says to all of us, and he says it to the disciples there, he says, hey, that stuff you're going through right now, man, I don't know what that's like. It hurts. I hate that you're in that. That pain that you feel, I've been there. That's rough. And that thing that you've experienced or the thing that you're experiencing right now, whatever that is, yeah, me too. We've got a God that knows what it feels like to have tears go down his cheeks. A God who knows what the tears taste like when they hit his lips. So that we know that he's not distant, that he's present. We have a God that enters into our tears. Hebrews 4:15 says this. I don't know, this is one of my go-tos. This has always been just impressed on me from I don't know how long. It says this, for we do not have a high priest, that's Jesus. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness. Do you ever feel weak when you're in the middle of loss? I do. But one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence, this is the good part, let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. We have a God who is not distant, but when we are in the middle of pain, when we're losing, when we're in the middle of John 11, we can run to him in confidence and know that he knows what it feels like and know we can expect to get grace. That's really, really good news. That doesn't mean, if you have faith in Jesus, it doesn't mean you're going to be immune from suffering or sadness or pain. That is part of living in a broken world. That's guaranteed. That stuff's going to happen. So let me give us some application when we see other people around us going through this, when we see Mary and Martha suffering like this. Whenever you're around somebody, maybe it's a family member, a friend, a neighbor, coworker, somebody here, and they're going through a loss. Like they're just in the middle of it. They're having a John 11 type moment or season. Don't say to them, well, at least this. Hey, at least this didn't happen. Or at least you have this. Don't say that. Like, I understand the intentions for that are really good. What we're actually trying to do is we're trying to ease the pain and move it along. But whenever you say at least to somebody, whatever that at least is, it's actually maybe the worst thing that you could say to them. Because unintentionally, what you've just done is you've marginalized their pain and their fear. When Jesus sees Mary and Martha, he doesn't say, hey, don't be sad, at least this didn't happen. Hey, don't worry about it, at least this is gonna happen. He doesn't say any of that. He doesn't say a word. He just shows up and he cries with them. That's what we're supposed to do. Just cry with people. Just listen when they vent. You don't have to talk away people's pain. That's not your job. You can't do it anyway. Our job is just to sit in the suck with people. Cry with them. That's what Jesus did. Once he gave them a chance to believe, once he listened, once he let them vent, once he cried with them, then he acted, not before. So he goes out to the tomb and he sees all these people weeping and upset, and that's all he experienced when he went to Lazarus' house. And he's deeply moved. He's even, it says troubled, deeply angered is another translation there. Jesus is mad. He's weeping himself and he's like, all right, that's enough. Get rid of the stone. So in the first century, tombs were usually cut out of the side of a hill, and they would have been big enough to put anywhere up to 8 bodies in them. And then a stone would have been rolled in front of the tomb to seal it up. And Jesus gets there and says, get rid of the stone. I'm tired of this. I'm doing something about it now. And so they roll the stone away, and then Martha speaks up, and she starts to have second thoughts. She starts to doubt. The Martha who earlier, when Jesus asks her, hey, do you believe me? Hey, do you believe that I'm bigger than this? Do you believe that I'm in control? Do you believe that I have greater power than the power of death? She says, yes, Jesus. That very same Martha, now she's having second thoughts. As soon as she sees Jesus act in the way that she wanted him to act in the first place, she says, wait, Jesus, wait, roll away the stone. Don't do that. It's going to smell. It's easy to say that you believe in Jesus. It's easy. What's hard is when you have to stand on that belief when Jesus starts to act. Sometimes Jesus will act in ways that you didn't think were possible. You know, it's easy to stand on that belief when Jesus begins to act in my box of perception and expectation. If Jesus does it the way I think he should, or the way I want him to, or the way that doesn't make me uncomfortable, I'm good. I can stand on that belief. But whenever he starts acting outside of that, whoa. Hey, Jesus, I don't know that I'm cool with that. Or you start to point things out to Jesus that you think that he missed. Hey, Jesus, you might want to consider this tactic. I don't know the thing that you're doing is going to work out too well. That might be awkward. What we try to do is we try to warn him about the smell. Like, yeah, Jesus, I believe. But you can't reach skeptical people through your word. They're not going to buy it. Yes, Jesus, I believe, but you can't save my friend through the reality of faith because he's an atheist. Yes, I believe, but Jesus, you can't love somebody by telling them truth because truth just really isn't going to fly here. We try to course correct. If it gets outside of our box and it gets uncomfortable, or we don't like the way that Jesus is acting or the way he's going to accomplish the purpose, we start to throw a warning. So let me ask you this. If you call yourself a Christian, what smell are you trying to warn Jesus about? Not only do we have a God in Jesus who gets into our tears with us, he also isn't afraid to jump into the mess. He's not afraid of the smell. That should bring a lot of relief and freedom to us. That should bring peace. So if you call yourself a follower of Christ, what smell are you trying to avoid? If he's got the power to raise somebody from the dead, if this happened, and I believe that it did, then there's nothing outside of his power. Amen. There's nothing too strong. That means there's no smell strong enough either. He says in verse 25, here's the point of this whole story. He drives it home with Martha. He says, do you believe? Verse 25 says this, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Do you believe this? He's not just asking Martha this. He's asking every single one of us, do you believe this? Not only is he saying it, but he's also showing that he can do it by raising Lazarus from the dead. Just like Lazarus was dead and buried in a grave. 4 days. 4 days. You and I are dead in our sin. Ephesians 2 says this, you were dead in your trespasses and your sin. Dead. But, this is the greatest but you will ever hear. But, God being rich in his mercy and his love for us made us alive even though we were dead in our trespasses. By grace you have been saved. We have life in Christ Jesus. Do you believe this? Do you believe this? I was dead. Me personally, Matt, I was dead. Jesus made me alive. Many of you, you've been dead and Jesus made you alive. Maybe you've heard this 100 times before and you've never responded to it. Maybe this is the first time you've ever heard anything like this. But let me tell you this, and if you hear one thing today, hear this. There is a God. There's one God. He's alive and his name is Jesus. And you, just like me, have been dead in sin, dead in trespass. I don't know what that is for you. I don't know what strangled you in life. I don't know what sin has put you to death. But Jesus says, hey, I see all that. You're dead. A dead body can't resurrect itself, but I can. Amen. I took all of your sin and your trespasses, the things that have made you dead, I put them on my shoulders and I got nailed to a tree 2,000 years ago. I died for you, and then just like Lazarus, I walked out of a grave 3 days later, but nobody did it. I did it on my own. Now I can give you that same life. I can wipe away that sin. I can make you alive. I can resurrect you today. Do you believe this? Romans 10 says that anyone who believes in their heart and confesses with their mouth that Jesus is Lord will be saved. That's a promise, and that's a promise for you right now. So do you believe this? Here's what I want to do. Today's the day where it's time to confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. And I want to step out. I want to take that life. Matt, I got so many questions. Great, bring them. There's no questions that are off the table. Well, I got doubts. Me too. Me too. We're not afraid of doubt. God's not afraid of doubt. In fact, doubt is not the antithesis of faith. It's not. Sometimes we think that it is. Actually, if you pursue doubt, honestly, it can lead you to the truth. So lean into that doubt. This place is a safe place for doubt. You can bring doubt all day long here. But if today is the day where you want to confess, you want to ask questions, you want to get prayed over, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go back into a time where we're just going to worship. I'm going to go hang out there over at that sign. If today's the day where you want to confess Jesus, if you want to ask questions, if you want to get prayed over, man, come talk to me. I'd love to talk to you, all right? So we're going to pray. Whenever you're ready, meet me over there, all right? Father, thank you. Thank you that you have the power to resurrect dead bodies like me. That you would love me and have enough mercy, man, to forgive and erase and pay for my own sin that I couldn't. God, I pray that you would move right now, that there's somebody that's stirring, there's somebody that you're speaking to, there's seeds that have already been planted and watered today. Would you bring a harvest? Would you draw all men and women to yourself? I pray that you would take away any fear or anxiety, but that you would raise people today. Father, for those of us who have accepted you and confessed that you're Lord and that you've raised and you've given new life, I pray that you would remind us of that right now, and that our response would be nothing but worship in a way that we just sell out to you in worship, that we give you glory, and that right now you take delight in us. We love you. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.